Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. And today we're going to be playing the Edge of Eternities Qualifier Play-In Event. This is some more very competitive Edge of Eternities sealed. This will be best of 3 sealed, trying to get at least 4 wins before only 1 loss. Now, because it is best of 3, we can lose individual games, but if we lose a single best 2 out of 3 round, we are out of this event. So super high stakes, super competitive stuff here. If you get through this and you qualify, then you are in the qualifier weekend, which is another 2-day long event that could qualify you for the Arena Championship. But you don't get to re-enter that event at all. If you're out one time, you are completely done, and you have to make it through, I think, 7 wins during day 1, and then 7 wins during day 2 as well. So very, very hard to make it through during that event, but it's a cool event. It is a fun time to play some competitive sealed if you are into that, especially because the Arena Direct, which is what I was going to be recording right now, is currently taken down off of Arena due to technical issues. So I figured I already took the time out to record today. Until they bring that Arena Direct back up, we'll just do a couple of these qualifier play-in runs, and whenever the Arena Direct goes live again, I'll start recording those videos for you all. So hopefully there'll only be a couple of these and then a bunch of Arena Directs trying to get some play boxes of Edge of Eternities, but you get the gist. That is a super long spiel. With that out of the way, now that you know what's coming to the channel in the near future, let's just get into the qualifier play-in, see what we open, and see what we get to play with today. Alright, not the greatest rares, but that's pretty usual for Edge of Eternities. A lot of the rares are going to be pretty constructed-oriented cards like Loading Zone and Bioengineered Future, as well as some lands like Watery Grave, Avendo, Waking Haven. But we've got a few rares that could be pretty strong in the right deck. Warmaker Gunship if we have a ton of artifacts. The Zoophyte is not too hard to use well. It's best with a little bit of self-mill, but if you're just a creature-heavy deck in general, this can give you some extra value in the late game. And Halia could draw you some cards in any deck, although with a little bit of synergy, you can make it a lot more consistent. So a few pretty decent rares, and then a bunch of kind of random stuff. Looks like a fine, pretty average, rare combination of cards for this sealed pool. Checking out our colorless and our multicolored here, we've got 1 command bridge for fixing in any deck. We've got the Scrap Bot, which I'll play in pretty much anything. 3 mana, 3/1 plus a lander token. Great, great deal. The other colorless spells here are not particularly exciting. There's an All Fate Scroll if we really need to splash around, but I don't think any of our rares were really powerful enough to get us that interested in splashing. For any 2-color archetypes that look strong, we've got Halia towards green-white, Sammy towards red-white, and Alpha Rail towards blue-black. The only of those I'm actually really excited about is Halia. I think Halia is the strongest of those, but they're all still, I think, weak enough overall, and there's not that many multicolored spells that we can just kind of find our strongest couple colors here, mash those together, and try to build the strongest deck we can. So starting off with our white here, Double Focus fires some really efficient removal. We also have an All Fate Stalker for the bigger stuff. Pretty good stuff from white. For blue, we've got a higher quantity of cards and a good amount of interaction here as well. A Tractor Beam, Double Cryo Shatter, and some Lost in Space for temporary removal. There are some weaker creatures here, like some pretty good ones like Scion Assist. Selfcraft Mechan can be great in the right deck. But certainly some weaker filler like the Steel Swarm Operative, the Cloud Sculpt Technician, that kind of stuff. But pretty great spells overall, and some pretty good creatures, at least a few of them. Blue is a super solid color. Black now, very deep in terms of the quantity of cards we have here. The quality is a bit low, there's just no removal whatsoever, which is kind of absurd for black, and kind of unlikely. That is definitely disappointing. But if we have a secondary color with a lot of good removal, I think our black is perfectly fine. We have enough pretty solid creatures throughout the curve. Do something like this, and then play a bunch of removal out of a secondary color. That could be a deck. Red looks like the highest quantity of playables out of every color we've looked at so far. Some artifact synergy going on here as well. I guess it's really the low mana value stuff on the curve that looks great. Triple Pangolin, Double Mechan, and a Melded Moxite for artifact-focused decks. That helps our Warmaker gunship be really powerful as well. Yeah, a red-based artifact deck does look quite viable here. We also have Plasma Bolt, so we have Plasma Bolt and Gunship for removal. So not quite as much removal as we had in blue or white, but the quality of that removal is pretty high. And I accidentally cut that, so now I have to cut everything to move on to green. Green has a lot of narrow spells. Really good one-drops, actually. Yeah, green looks fine. Lots of good one-drops. Some fixing with Gene Pollinator and Edge Rovers if they die for those lander tokens. Some beefy creatures with some Crashers. Doesn't get any bigger than Ice Cave Crasher. Just a single copy Broodguard Elite could be awkward. But it looks like a very reasonable color. Alright, I think I'm going to play the Scrap Bot. Right off the bat. I was most interested in our green and our red. I don't know how well they really fit together. We have a Halia if we want to check out green-white. I only get to cut 2 cards here. It's probably going to be pretty bad then. If we go all in on +1/+1 counters, maybe Bioengineered Future gets remotely playable. That's such a narrow card. I think this is in like the bottom 5 cards in the entire set in terms of win rates. So you have to be real consistent to get that working. Yeah, Bioengineered Future and Loading Zone are literally in the bottom 3 worst cards in the entire set by win rate in draft, and they are not played enough in sealed to be tracked by win rate. I have to run some amount of bad filler here, but the curve is real fast. Obviously, we get the Halia there. I think we want Scroll. I think I'd rather run the most fillery of our creatures than run a Scroll. This is a perfectly fine deck, honestly. I don't hate this. I don't hate this. I feel like we can probably do better, but I don't despise it. Let's check out the green-red, I think. It's another path I was interested in taking. Maybe red-blue, that would be the highest artifact count for the Warmaker gunship to be as solid as possible. But the thing I like about the green-red is I really like the quality of our cheap green spells. And a few of them happen to be artifacts as well. Gene Pollinator, Double Edge Rover. So even green-red will give us a couple more artifacts to go with the gunship. So I don't think that's super wild or anything. But we'll take a peek at blue-red. This would be the most artifact-centric color pair we get to run. Cut some fleshy creatures that don't really have synergy. Still feel like the operator's very narrow for a 2-mana 1/1 fire. Yeah, something like this looks fine. So we got a fine blue-red artifact stack. That's definitely a direction we can take things as well. Green-red here. Goes lighter on the artifacts to get a little beefier and maybe a little quicker with Pollinator and like some 1-mana 2/2s. I think I like our blue interaction more than our green interaction. We have double Cryo Shatter, double Lost in Space, and a Tractor Beam out of blue. Here in green, we just have Resolve, Relations, and Shattered Wings. And then the red removal, but that's the same in green-red or blue-red. In fact, in blue-red, I think the gunship's a little better. Yeah, I mean, it's another fine spot to take it. Looks like a bunch of just fine decks available to us in the sealed pool. Nothing that's going to be astronomically powerful or miles ahead of anything else we could build. Another peek at everything we have in the other colors and make sure nothing is really splashable at all, but I'm pretty sure there was nothing really. I mean, Flash focus fires. Literally no removal in black. The only black card that's super powerful requires double black, so that's not splashable. None of the multicolored cards are super good to splash in, like Sammy's just fine. Halia, obviously, requiring double white makes that not very splashable. So we go green, white, splash the red, but I don't think that makes a ton of sense because in order for our best red card to be good, the gunship, we need to run a bunch of red to run a bunch of artifacts, all these pangolins and mechans. There's only 2 artifacts in our white. If we splash the mechan in, or splash the gunship in. Maybe we splash Halia in? I've just realized for the first time these are both the same character. Halia Guided by Light and Halia Ascendant Cadet. Maybe we splash the mono white Halia in that only requires a single white mana, not the 2-color one that requires double white. So 3 creatures or artifacts enter the battlefield in 1 turn. You draw a card off of Halia. I don't think that happens super often in this deck, but it's not completely impossible. I actually don't really think I have any lander tokens in this deck outside of Edge Rovers. So I guess it is kind of impossible, because we're not like playing any creature tokens. We're not playing any lander tokens. We don't have any creatures that like enter the battlefield and create an artifact token at the same time. So none of the cards in this deck spit out 2 triggers for Halia in 1 turn. So I'd have to literally like warp Halia and cast 2 other creatures in the same turn, which is very difficult generally. Wait till like turn 4 at least. Then warp Halia, play Edge Rover, and a 2-drop. This does not seem like the best Halia spot here. I don't think there's any other life gain outside of our black in this sealed pool to have any alternate ways to trigger Halia. Just the Comet Crawlers. Yeah, I don't think she's worth the splash. Definitely play Scrapbot. Forgot to put Scrapbot in here. I'm on 19 creatures right now, so we just cut a couple of those. No really going wide here, so we cut the team leader. There's like no token production, I mean to say. Cut the Ardent as well. Keep things low. Sure. Yeah, again, it's a bunch of fine decks. Pick your poison of fine stuff we could play. Green-red, red-blue, green-white. Okay, this is still a super fast curve. This gets to run the Halia up front. I mean, both of them. Removal's a little worse than when we're playing red. Relying on a couple focus fire. The speed is there. The speed is kind of what we have going for all of our decks, be it green, white, green, red, red, blue, anything like that. We have a lot of 1-drops in this sealed pool. Alright, I'm just going to lock in with green, white here. I think these decks are all quite comparable, and this way we get to have a little bit of card draw on the deck between both of the Halias. The Ascendant Cadet is a little bit easier to be kind of a consistent card draw engine. This Halia probably draws us like 1 card and then stops on average. But yeah, just nice aggressive curve, great cheap interaction. It's about the best we are hoping for out of this sealed pool in general, so we'll call it a deck here, hop into the gameplay, and see how this does. Here we are on the play for game 1 of round 1. This hand's a borderline of 4 landers, certainly risky, but we have a 2-drop and 4-drop creature to play on curve aggressively with a piece of interaction against their best threats. Mono black so far from our opponent, the Hole Carver and the Hilder Blade to suit it up. Could regret focus firing the Hole Carver, but the way that our hand is here, we do not have a lot more threats to cast throughout this game, so I'd rather trade a removal to keep a threat around. Our opponent's ramping up with their larval Scoutlander now. And they are just Golgari, just black and green, as they did not tutor out a third color of land. Galactic Wayfarer, grab a lander token. Beautiful fixing, the Mythic Common, that I did not open. There's the Helder Blade equip thanks to the Void trigger sacrificing their thing. Jump attack with the Tenderfoot to deal 7. Put them to 9. I don't think so. Because I could double activate Tenderfoot next turn and have it be a 4/4. If I attack with all, they're just going to eat the Tenderfoot and we'll deal 9. I think it is better to just do the 1-for-1 trade, get that out of here, and then have Tenderfoot around to be a 4/4 next turn if we flood out. Find an actual trade instead of just letting our opponent eat our creatures without losing anything on their board. Perfect. That certainly changes things. Draw the Enhancer, make the Sky Stinger a 4/4 so it can attack into the Crasher. And then a counter on anybody else is not going to get them attacking right now. I could instead, if I want to attack with 2 things right now, actually put a counter on Sky Stinger and Tenderfoot, and then put another counter on Tenderfoot. Now Tenderfoot trades into the Crasher, and we get to keep Sky Stinger and Enhancer around. They traded into the Sky Stinger instead of the Tenderfoot, which is interesting, considering the Tenderfoot can keep getting bigger without me playing any other spells. I suppose they care about the reach quite a bit, because that's really the only difference between the Tenderfoot and the Sky Stinger. They do have a Scoutlander on the board, so eventually they will have a flyer. So hold other mana untapped for potential removal here. I think I just jammed the Enhancer down then. Halia, out of all 4 of these cards, is the creature that I would like to die the absolute least, so we can just keep her off the board. Seems more than easy enough here. Still applying plenty pressure without her. Pull out some Grav kills or something here. Maybe a depressurize. Nope, Grav kill it is. Take the 3, they're down to 8. There's a Swarm Color for a 2/4. Lets them sack an artifact or creature every time it becomes tapped to draw a card. They might tap it to the command bridge in the interest of drawing a card here, but they don't. They tap the Hilder Blade. Okay. They do not have good blocks for either of these. I can make sure one of them gets through, or they have to chump both by putting a counter on the Rover. And there's the concession from our opponent, and a very hilarious visual glitch, where because they conceded while the counter was getting placed, it got half a +1/+1 counter. Our Rover was a 4/3 instead of a 4/4. Weird stuff, but okay. So from our opponent's deck, we saw a Hemosimic Might, Swarm Color, Hilderblade, Scoutlander, Gravkill, Crasher, Wayfarer, and Hole Carver. Generic green and black commons and uncommons. I mean, we just played generic green and white commons and uncommons. So I guess we both got just as much information here. Bit more ramp than we have, bit more fixing than we have available. Scoutlander, Command Bridge, and Wayfarer in this deck. A little weird to see Command Bridge from them, considering it looks like they're only 2 colors. They're just green and blue, so having to tap another permanent is a pretty large downside for just a 2-color deck. And then they have the Wayfarer and the Scout. Like, they definitely have the tools to splash in a third color. So maybe they are, and they just didn't... No, because they never cast a double green or double black spell. So they never had a reason to want more like green and black over finding their splash color. Yeah, I think this is just generic green-black stuff. There's nothing to really sideboard or play around here. Just saw the basics. So we'll run it back, see how things go in game 2 of round number 1. All right, here we are for game 2. We have the early plays. We have a 2-drop and a 3-drop, but this is a 5-lander. That is a hard sell considering any land we draw for the rest of the game is going to be flooding, and we're quite likely to draw some amount of lands throughout this game, even if we do have 5 out of the way immediately. I've got a mana sink ability with the Tenderfoot. I have both of our colors, and we have what we need to have in the hand early. We have the early plays. It's as close to keepable as like a 5-lander can get. We're gonna gamble on this one. I'm gonna keep it here. The other thing I like about it is that like we have early plays, and one of them is also a mana sink. If they don't remove it, it gives us something to do with our mana on turns in between drawing spells. Right, like if I don't draw a 4-drop, then I can just put a counter on this, and then if I draw a 5-drop after that, that won't feel that bad. Alright. I mean, this happens in best of 3 sealed. People can definitely sideboard into just completely different colors. So green-blue from our opponent this time. One of the things that's nice in best of 3 sealed, if you take the time to look through all your different potential decks like we did, is that if we have a particularly horrible matchup for some reason, we can just completely swap over to like blue-red artifacts and just surprise our opponent out of nowhere. Hope that they sideboard it around our green-white deck, and then we're just running something completely different. Alright, our opponent is the Ramp Champion, but they're also going to take a massive swing to the face for it, because we have curved out 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop. Pretty lucky draws here. We drew a 1-drop on turn 1, and then in the meantime, drawing a 4-drop in the meantime wasn't that lucky, considering all the other draws were lands. But that 1-drop was a super, super lucky draw. Green and blue are the least board wipey colors in this set. There are too many board wipes in this format I mean, there's even an uncommon. There's an uncommon, some rares, and some mythics that will destroy everything on the board. But for a green-blue deck, the only one that'll do that is a 8-mana colorless spacecraft. So we're not particularly worried about overextending here. That said, they were playing black game 1. We could see a scenario where they use a lander token, grab a black source, and then play the like black and X board wipe or something. Although if that were the case again, they have cracked double lander off Scout Lander and chosen to get only blue and green mana again, so it doesn't look like they are interested in splashing. Okay, we hit a land here. Not great, but thanks to Starport Security, got a nice turn regardless. So because of the cost reduction for putting a counter on the board, we can get a counter on Tenderfoot and tap the Crasher, send the whole team in. Tenderfoot trades into Wayfarer, and we deal 8. Get them pretty low here. Could also just choose not to attack with Tenderfoot there, considering we don't have anything to do with our mana outside of put counters on Tenderfoot or tap something with security. But I like reducing their creature count as quickly as possible, whittling down this board and pushing as much damage as we can while we still can. There's Nanoform Sentinel. Super aggressive stuff from our opponent. They're going to Biosynthetic Burst just to have a blocker up. Sure. I mean, I guess they get another counter from doing it this way. They've technically double spelled with the Ilvoy Operative. I still feel that could have been better on blocks, because then they like kill my creatures as a surprise out of nowhere. Because they get the indestructible as well, and now it is not indestructible. Don't think it is going to matter here because that risk of this hand of it flooding out has come to pass. It was almost guaranteed to happen. I was just hoping we could push just enough damage before it did. Alas, that was not the case. Our opponent had a pretty decent start of their own to stop this damage and not take quite lethal. Have to just start using starport securities on blocks. That feels rough, but it is a chance. If you get double starport security on board, that is a way that you can get your opponent down to 0 blockers out of like nowhere. I do need 8 mana here. That would have been a lot easier to do if we had a counter creature on board, but I didn't have the second starport security in hand at the time I chose to trade off the Tenderfoot. Dawnsire. Okay. That's pretty bad here. Because they're chunky enough spot on board, they can get up to 10 stationing. Really, Nanoform Sentinel, I think, is single-handedly what makes that pretty bad for me. If it weren't for the Nanoform Sentinel, I think that'd be pretty difficult for them to do at 5 life. I mean, they might still overdo it here and die for that. I mean, yeah, they're already like... Okay, Cryo Shatter works. Dang it. If they didn't have Cryo Shatter, I think they're already in a spot where they're just kind of dead on the crackback for doing it that aggressively. Which means, obviously, if they didn't have Cryo Shatter, they wouldn't have done that, so fair enough. Alright, well, we can make it so they hold no blockers up. If they attack, they could attack, kill Scrapbot. They have 0 blockers up. I put them to 3 life total. If I draw my Destroyed Enchantment, they're just dead as well. Yeah. So they just kill a Scrapbot, and then they're dead to a couple different spells out of our deck, actually. Which means I take this to make sure that they're still dead to our Naturalize. Land. They are not dead to basic land, I can tell you that. So they got us, right? Tap. 6 life, take 6 die. Because they can blow up the next blocker with just the attack declaration. Yeah, I don't have any spells to cast here, we're just dead. I mean, I think our deck is better than theirs, the green-black or the green-blue. It's a lot of filler for sure. I don't even think Dawnsire's that good. Yeah, I mean, that was still a pretty close game. We still had an out to insta-kill them if we drew the right card there. And we were only 1, maybe 2 cards away from just having the curve out kill them before they even got to the Dawnsire. They ended that game on 5 life, functionally 3, because we had an extra 2 damage we could have hit for. I feel like our matchup is good. I don't really want to fiddle with it. Just keep the green-white and keep a better opener this game as the plan. There's other ways to do things here, but obviously they swapped decks each game so far, so I don't want to sideboard too heavily focused on one specific deck that they ran. Yeah, let's run it back. Game 3, just draw a little better this time. Alright, here we are on the play for the final game of Magic. Got a little Tenderfoot curve out here. Mono green, there's the Hemosymbic Might. It's the one thread that has stayed in common each time. You're definitely playing green. Green-blue again. Jam in a Tenderfoot. They do not want to trade a Biosynthetic Burst off. Here's a Halia. Our draws this game have been exclusively lands. So pretty bad draws so far. There's a counterspell we did not see last game to get rid of Halia. More lands, baby. Just upgraded Tenderfoot and send in. Overplaying another 2/2. You hate to see it, you really do. The really awkward part here is I have to double activate the same Tenderfoot, which leaves it really vulnerable to removal. But if I don't double activate it and they play a basic, then I can't Diplomatic Relations next turn. Because I have to pay Ward 2 on Grove Strider, so 5 mana for Relations. So I need one of these big enough to shoot a 6 toughness Ward 2 card immediately. That Dawnslayer is gonna be a problem. I have to just Relations the Grove Strider and send all here. 9 damage. Then they go fully station the Dawnslayer off of Might and Operative. So they just play some Summoning Sickness creature and then station the Dawnslayer, send an Operative in, and kill my biggest Tenderfoot. Yeah, it's gonna be a not great turn, but I don't really have another line. Can't let Grove Strider just chill and get out of range here. 100% sending both in here, because if they want to kill the smaller Tenderfoot, they have to lose both of their creatures that don't have Summoning Sickness, which means they don't get an attack trigger with Dawnslayer next turn. So chump the 6, save one of their creatures to be able to get an attack trigger next turn. They just need to play 4 power of creatures to activate Dawnslayer. Cerebral Download is not that. Surveil 1, draw 3. Just Biosynthetic Burst to have the power to fully station the Dawn, then they just die if they do fully station. So I can just like force a chump here, put them to 4, and then pass. It's pretty lucky. So they have to chump one of these and I draw a card. Thank you, Halia. Very cool. And there's the concession from our opponent. Low stuff there, but they could not find the power to station that Dawnslayer in time, which means that we get a victory in that match. That is 2-1. The victory in round 1 as we head into round number 2. Here we are for round number 2. We cannot keep a mono white hand with multiple green spells. This is better. Not a great opener, but it's got to be a keep here. 3-lander with a 2-drop and 2 4s, both of our colors. And against a black deck. Ooh. True a 1 white mana spell. Blue-black it is. There's Beam Saw Prospector, which is a great trade for our opponent against any of our creatures. Pass through. Not super worried about putting another 2/2 on this board. Let's just get the 3/3 jamming. Only play the stat lines that really count against that 2/1. Embrace Oblivion, I'll take it. They get some death trigger value out of the creature, so it's not like a full-on 2-for-1 in our favor, but it's not a particularly bad deal. Not a lot of flash creatures in the set, so I'm pretty free to send that 1 damage in. If we're playing against a white deck, that's where you do have to be pretty concerned about what you're attacking with. There are 3 different white spells that care about shooting an attacking creature or shooting a tapped creature. There's the uncommon that shoots a tapped creature for 2, there's the common that destroys a tapped creature, and there's the other common that deals damage to an attacking or blocking creature. Okay, well obviously I have to play my land to attack into Tanook here. And then my mouse will die, and I have to use the loud one that's plugged in. I think we just play another Ice Cave Crasher. But I could like play a Tenderfoot, make it a 3/3, and then Starport Security only costs 2 to activate in the future. I'll just play the Crasher. So I can definitely play anything in their hand, thanks to Chinook, with the warp cost. But it's only artifact creatures and red ones. Any artifact and any red creature card. So I guess, yeah, if they do have like a big 6-mana black creature, some of those are artifacts, like the double black and 4/4 flyer, stuff like that. So it can actually warp in off-color cards as long as they're artifacts. Roving Actuator, and because it was warped off of Tanook, it counts as void. That is pretty immense synergy. Luckily, it's really not the end of the world. They've fully discarded the full Actuator to fully discard the Crasher, so it was just a 1-for-1 trade. There's a land for us to attack into Tanook. You love to see that. Don't even have to use the Starport Security, and so I shan't. They're down to 6. Now they are just dead to a Starport Security activation if they don't impact this board. They do impact this board. There's Hole Carver, but I can blow it up with Shattered Wings. Alright, if they don't have a good instant speed piece of interaction, this should be game. Arena is holding for them, so they quite likely have something at instant speed, but we'll find out what it is soon enough. Definitely will keep an All-Fate Stalker on top. Plunge on in our attempted lethal, probably lose the Crasher, but still put them down to 3. And finish them off next turn after an All-Fate Stalker. Yep, grab kill Crasher's perfectly fine. Still facing lethal next turn. And there's the concession from our opponent. That'll start round 2 off. 1-0 for now. Been pretty happy with how our green-white deck has played. Again, it's not super splashy, it's not super bomby, but it is perfectly consistent little curve outs here. Bunch of solid, reasonable creatures. Decent amount of reasonable interaction. Nothing crazy to play around here. We will run it back again. Alright, here we are on the draw for game number 2 of this round. It's a very solid hand. Curving out with the Might and the Tenderfoot. No turn 3 play, but then some really good stuff from turn 4 onward. That is part of what is nice about the Tenderfoot, right? It still gives us a turn 3 play. Can also warp the Broodguard Elite, just put 2 counters on the Hyomo Symbic Might instead. That also does not seem terrible to me. Skip out on a couple damage now for potentially much more later. Because a Hyomo Symbic Might with some counters on it is very threatening. +3/+3 to somebody every turn. Bombard on the Might. Skip the turn to do that. Decent work from the Broodguard Elite. Now we are on Ice Cave Crasher. Pass. Caveron Turbo Drone is out, and the Pangolin is a little bigger now. Focus Fire is the draw. Can stalk the Pangolin holding up a Focus Fire, or I could just kill both with the Resolve as well. Let's go for killing both here. Push damage immediately. Now they need the deal 6 to kill Crasher. If they try to kill with red removal, and even if they have that, they don't get the lander anymore. They have the grab kill. That obviously still works. If they have the sack a creature destroy something, it's likely very bad in their hand now. Because we've gone them down to just 3 cards here, to where sacking a creature is going to be rough. Grab kill the Stalker to have a Pangolin up. Pass through. They have no good blocks here. Do I still hold up Focus Fire in case of shenanigans? Suppose so. It's 1 less point of damage to play around the indestructible on blocks trick. Okay. Because there's a 1 black mana instant +2/+0 indestructible. Crasher can't get any bigger, but it has Trample. And Trample's a big deal. Okay, they're going to kill both here. It doesn't matter. They chose not to use Pangolin, which means they have 1 black to sack the Dirge Craft, kill the last creature as their play. I'll leave the Trampler, like, just in case, but I'm almost 100% sure we're just getting Oblivion here. No, it's Hole Carver. Okay, never mind. That means we could just win out of nowhere if they just block with... Actually, even if they double block, they're just dead. And they can't double block because of the Resolve. Wow. Yeah, Resolve is so gross here. I don't even need Focus Fire to really win this game, because even if they block with Pangolin, they go down to 1 life and I keep the 5/6 out. Yeah, the Resolve forcing single blocks there was real nasty. The bonus little flavor text on this card, the one time it usually comes into play is when you have a creature with Menace. So if you're in red-green, you can get pretty spicy with it. But, wow. It's actually also pretty sick with Trample. All right, well, nice consistent stuff from our green-white deck. Again, nothing exciting going on here, but more than consistent enough stuff to be in the money out of this event. Because it is so easy to drop out of this event immediately, the second you lose a round, you're already out. You don't have to win too many rounds to be in the money. It costs 4,000 gems to enter, and we are at 4,500 gems for the prize out here. So very good stuff out of this qualifier playing where no matter where things go from here. All right, here we are on the draw for game 1 of round number 3. Stands pretty risky with a double white spell in the hand, but we know that we have the Hemosymbic Might on 1 and the Scrap Bot on 3 no matter what. If we draw 1 plains, the Scrap Bot's Lander token gets us to the second. I'm going to take the risk on this one with 3 very solid castable spells in the early turns. Now we've drawn a very castable 4-drop no matter how we draw this game. This is a very fine, very reasonable hand from here. Crasher was a good start to our top decks. We're playing against green-blue. Potentially just the best color pair in Sealed. The green Lander token shenanigans just plays incredibly well, and blue's just got a lot of really nice individual card quality. Unfortunately, we drew a 2-mana white spell, which is quite bad here. And our opponent has started with a very powerful 2-mana rare. Just a 2-mana 3/3 flyer with a bunch of bonus text. If they get to 6 or more lands, starts attacking as a 6/6 flyer. The Imago is pretty egregious. They got a Mana Confluence from the bonus sheet. That's a very good one for Sealed. Just a 5-color land there. And now Psionicist. Opponents casually jammed down their Soul Ring. I can't relations anything with just a 1/1 on the board, so we have to Scrap Bot here. We have found the white source, but despite this hand working out pretty well, being a very reasonable start, our opponent is on an incredibly powerful start. Imago into Psionicist, all the while having perfect mana with a Mana Confluence on the board. Things are about as threatening as you can get on our opponent's board this early in the game. There's the black source. Landfall trigger for 3 in the sky. There's a Tenderfoot. And an Ice Cave Crasher for only 2 mana because Psionicist is insane. Very surprised, but also happy by the Psionicist attack. Obviously, I lose 2 creatures to it, which is pretty bad, but we gotta get that thing out of here if we can. Here's Ice Cave Crasher of our own. Yeah, our other line would be take all of that damage and then just relations away the Psionicist. They've still got removal with a Grav Kill here. All right. Unbeatable opening hand from our opponent is going to immediately shove us into game 2. This was just the magical Christmas land curve out, really. Imago into Psionicist into double spell, including a 4/4 trample. Still have removal left over. Mana Confluence for perfect mana. This is an insane sealed pool versus a very, very average sealed pool from us. I don't know what we're going to do here, but I don't think it matters too much because we're already in the money, so we take those. I feel very outclassed here. We really just need to dodge these incredible rares. Dodge the curve outs. Yep, let's head back in there. I did see in the meantime, in between games, that the Arena Direct event is live now, so kind of ready to go record that. I'm not going to, concede or anything, but I am not that worried about trying my absolute hardest to get a little bit more gems out of this deck. I don't think this is winning another 2 rounds in a row. Alright, here we are on the play for game 2. We've got quite the curve if we top deck a land to get us started. We've got Edge Rover into Sky Stinger into Ice Cave Crasher. We don't have a 2-drop on curve, but if we can find an early trade for the Edge Rover, we might be able to make up for that by just cracking a lander token. It would require some really cheap high-power creatures from our opponent, though, for it to trade off immediately. But who knows? They could go Swamp and play the -2/-2 spell. I would not mind that. Island. Cryo Shatter, okay. Thank you. Opponent, very cool. I think I get another white source. I don't actually have a double green spell in here, but I certainly have the double white Halia. Now I've got one Broodguard Elite. I have a single double green card and a single double white card. I have more green than white in general, but Halia is way stronger than the Broodguard. I'm gonna get the second white here. This also lets me play a white creature and hold up a Focus Fire. I don't think there's any green creatures in here I need to be able to play and hold anything else up. Alright, we haven't drawn any lands naturally, so I don't get to just Ice Cave Crasher turn 3, which would have been awesome. So that's quite a bummer. We just play a Sky Stinger instead. Our opponent has not missed any lands naturally. There's All Fate Scroll as well. Gain a little bit of life off a Germinating Worm Warp. We are still yet to actually draw a land. Shattered Wings on the scroll doesn't seem insane to me. If they don't have another land in hand, it keeps them off of the worm, and even if they do, it lets us surveil and look for mana, because I can't draw lands. Goodbye, Gene Pollinator. It is technically mana, but it's not immediate mana to get us to a 4-drop, and it is mana that is weak to removal, that we know our opponent has access to. So there's a ton of different ways that Pollinator is quite risky mana. Buff the Sky Stinger, make it big enough to trade another worm. The other thing about the Pollinator is, like, if they kill the Sky Stinger, even if they don't kill the Pollinator itself, we don't get the mana out of it. It needs another non-land permanent to actually give us mana. Our opponent is just bragging at this point. Land number 6 out. Cast whatever trick you want. It is a trade, and we do draw the land. Okay, play a Crasher. They've got 3 cards in their hand. There's the Mana Confluence. Mouth of the Storm is one of those 3 cards, quite a powerful one. And because of the Ward 2, you need a million mana to deal with it. Which, again, we've only drawn 1 land naturally this game. We had the 2 in our opener, the 1 from a lander, and then our 1 top-decked land. So we're very far from dealing with that. I need 6 mana to deal with it with Stalker. I need a super wide board to deal with it with Halia. Sounds like a pretty terrible idea to warp Halia and then play a security and then play a 0/0 Broodguard Elite, but technically I would draw a card if I did that. Let's just play a Starport security and then get a counter on these 2 creatures. Then, when the Ice Cave Crasher doesn't have a a power reduction anymore. It can attack in the Mouth of the Storm any turn I play a land. And Security's ability only costs 2. It should be 4 if we're paying for the ward. Slam in with Mouth of the Storm. Drop a Mechan Navigator. Pass. The lands despise me today. They despise me this game. Could try to outrace them on this board. Could cast Halia and a Focus Fire. Suppose Halia just used that little bit of life gain to go for the outrace. Raider hoof behemoths are coming now. Everyone loves it. A Namba with Navigator. Yep, we just got out last hard in card quality. Godmaw is a mythic uncommon. And then, of course, the Mana Confluence and the Genomorph Imago just demolishing us game 1. That card is counting all the rares and mythics. It's a top 5er. I guess Edge Rover means this game is not technically completely over. No, it does. If I had one more mana, it wouldn't be. I could cast Edge Rover to chump the Mouth and Stalker to exile the Godmaw, but I can't do that here because I don't have the mana. I could play an Edge Rover to chump Mouth of the Storm, and I could tap Godmaw with Starport Security. God, that's genuinely awful. But you played out in these events. If their hand is nothing but lands, and I top deck a land, then I have lethal on the crackback. Because I can double landfall, 1 with my land for turn and 1 off of the Edge Rover's Lander token. That makes Crasher 7 damage. 7 plus the 2 from Security is 9, plus the 3 from Halia is 12. If our opponent hits Flood here, we can still win this game. That is not Flood. That is a hasty creature that's going to force a chump here. If they go basic plus Lander token. Yeah, they need the other card in their hand to be a land for that to get in here. Otherwise, Crasher just blocks it. Okay, so they saved the Tenderfoot to not be dead on the crackback, but because of the cheapness of all Fate Stalker... Oh wait, they're not dead on the crackback, because they have to deal with the Mouth of the Storm. Yeah, no, I would have needed the Stalker to deal with the Mouth of the Storm. So yeah, I can't beat them through Tenderfoot. I actually couldn't have beat them even if they didn't have Tenderfoot, because that would have been 1 mana off from stalking the Mouth of the Storm. They had Trample... They had lethal in hand in the sky the whole time. They thought it through that much. Oh, that's annoying. Okay. When Godmaw's already got trample, I don't have the power for that. Obviously, I'm going to tap that. Okay. It is what it is. They got to play around me having something crazy. This is a competitive event, but that's... the slow play is how it feels from this side, but again, they had to play it safe in case I had some random nonsense. but they really still had all these. All right. 4,500 gems is the prize out today. That is more than enough for me. This was a very average sealed pool. We died to a very, very good one. So being able to be in the money, ending the event with more gems than we paid to enter is always a great, great time, even if we don't get to go to the qualifier weekend. But that's okay, because I probably wasn't going to have time to play it anyway, because I'm going to be recording the Arena Direct, which is actually back up now. So we're just going to hop into that for tomorrow's. Yeah, I don't know. Edge of Eternity Sealed is Edge of Eternity Sealed. Hope to open some good stuff. We got okay stuff here and got an okay result thanks to it. Not too much else to say other than that. Again, I think there were a lot of other viable ways this deck could have gone, but I think they were all quite comparable. You could do almost any two-color pair and have a similarly average deck that's just trying to curve out pretty well, because that's the one thing we had in almost any color pair, was just a good curve of mostly commons and uncommons. Nothing crazy anywhere. So I went with the green-white stuff that I've got a lot of experience with. It played pretty well for us, and it got us some gems, got us some monies from this qualifier play-in. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you more on your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.